Hello, everybody. First of all, I'm Suvojit, but you guys can call me Suvo. I'm a PhD student from University of Canterbury in New Zealand, and I would really like to thank Nina, Professor. If I apologize if I am bad at pronouncing your names, so don't take that. Yeah, especially Nina and Professor Renaud and Christy for having me here and presenting my research. And I would also like to thank my fellow PhD colleague Jacob. He must be somewhere here. Okay, who actually I wouldn't be here if he didn't tell me about this conference, and we sorted out a paper. We ended up working on a paper together, and here I am today. Um, so I would like to begin my talk by paying sincere condolences to the victims, and as Nina mentioned, about the 15 people who were injured during the recent terror attack that happened in Stockholm. Um, But as a communication student and who is studying terrorism, it's nothing new to me actually. However, this just points out the recent examples like the Stockholm attack or the London terror attack that happened, and then and the Paris one that happened. These are all actually examples which showcase that how modern terrorism has gone to the extent of radicalizing potential recruits through social media platforms or especially through online spheres. Um, so my PhD, basically, I'm in my PhD, I basically am looking at how modern terrorist organizations, especially Islamic State, uses Facebook and Twitter for propaganda and radicalization. Um, so the relation between internet and terrorism is not something new. Al-Qaeda has already existed for more than 2 decades now. And one of the typical features of terrorism, of these terrorist group, is to seek attention. And that has been done through various different ways, depending on the resources that they actually have. So for instance, during the late 1980s, when Al-Qaeda was in its nascent stage, so propaganda was done through distributing pamphlets and putting up posters and in religious gatherings or in busy places. Then it ended, then in 1990s, the audio and video taped footages of their top leaders like Osama bin Laden and Ayman al-Zawahiri, their video footages were circulated. Then the September 11 terror attack happened in the United States, and that is the time when um, Al Qaeda gained global prominence as a global terrorist organization, and mainstream media brought it in front of all of us and to the world that threat is there and such terrorist organizations exist and what are they capable of doing. And this is actually the fourth stage from pretty much roughly 2003 where to 2004, more roughly that time, when these terror groups have actually gone to the extent of online terrorism, and they have started using internet as a very potential tool for recruitment, radicalization, and as well as propaganda. Um, so, and if you, online sphere is so huge and it's so diverse. If one sits to do a research on online sphere itself, it will probably take a lifetime because there is so much thing that is happening in online sphere. We have websites and we have blogs, we have emails, and we have the present generation. We live and breathe and we walk and talk in the social media generation. We are obsessed with so many platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Um, so it's a very diverse medium. So as a communication student, one of the things that really, and I'm fascinated by social media platforms. It's one of the research interests I have, like what makes it so interesting and what constitutes social media. And after all, why terrorists would be, at the end of the day, would be going to Facebook and Twitter, and how can they use but to that question, actually, I found the answers on the the very inherent characteristics that actually make up these platforms. So these platforms are based on interactivity with instant communication, irrespective of time and space. You can send a message to anybody, irrespective of geography or location and time. Then there is peer-to-peer networking. Then there is affiliation to like-minded affiliates. You can stay in your own ideological bubble. You don't have to hear others' opinion. You follow the people uh, whom you think you are affiliated with their ideological positioning. Um, and then there is marketplace of collective ideas where you come across to such people who actually are there to listen to it. And mind you, you can remain anonymous even if you are attaching to those ideological positioning. And the last part, it's free for all. It's unregulated. Facebook and Twitter is. YouTube has started its subscription with YouTube Red, but still Facebook and Twitter are largely free to everybody. And because of this inherent characteristics, uh, it serves as a very potential tool for these, especially Islamic State, to create propaganda and radicalization from these tools, from this kind of mediums. So what are the platforms which are being used actually? So first is obviously Twitter. Yeah, I'm a very graphic person. I like presentations to be graphic. I don't like bulletins. That's just no. That's something. Yeah. So first is Twitter, which they actually use very actively, and there is a phenomena called hashtag hijacking, which is basically you take up trending hashtags which are being going viral, and Islamic State or Al Qaeda does is what they upload their content or choose their links, and then they use these trending hashtags to get maximum reach of audience from this kind of hashtags. And mind you, they just don't pick up any hashtags. That is also based on two considerations that I found out from my study. Is one of the hashtags, and their potential group is generally 15 to 25 or maximum 30. And they will generally follow those hashtags which are going viral within that age group. For instance, I don't know, Met Gala Awards. That's the hashtag that came a few days back. Those which are very viral among the age group. And the second consideration to keep in mind is the mainstream media organizations that would be eager to pick up such hashtags. And it is very likely, if you are following such viral hashtags or following, the social media person is very likely to come across such content. And once in a while, probably he will end up going to their sites or extremist website videos that they have uploaded. There is another very good tactic which I have observed in my study is that uh, whenever I end up going for collecting data, I get most data on Mondays, but you will not get much data on over the other regular weekdays. And why is it so? Is because Saturday, Sunday, weekend. And that time, although Facebook and Twitter has developed algorithms to scrutinize content, what is being uploaded, but yet Islamic State, especially the terrorists, especially those who are being recruited now, are very, very tech-savvy people who know how to avoid algorithms and how to actually put out content, and especially over the weekends when corporates are busy, are free, or weekends offices are closed. And by the time they have already posted those kind of content, it has already done its job of reaching out to its potential followers by the time those Twitter pages or Facebook pages are shut down. So that is another thing which they do very, very well. And then, so Twitter is one of the most preferred platforms which the Islamic State uses quite a lot for disseminating their propaganda and to radicalize people. Second is DIY terrorism, which is basically do-it-yourself terrorism. Oh, I'm sorry. Do-it-yourself terrorism. And this is served by Facebook, actually, mostly. Facebook serves as a very good platform because it's a platform which is all in one platform. It is giving you can make a post by text, you can put up a video link, you can share images, graphics, everything. So it's a very all-in-one platform altogether. And and it serves as a very good gateway to extremist sites, and then for especially for ideological messaging, and also acts as a very good platform to share know-how content. Know-how content, when I say, is basically uh, terrorist spreading manuals and instruction how to make bombs and how to make explosives using local resources, which is very, very, very difficult to stop, and especially in platforms like Facebook, which is, and so it has really, this Facebook has really acted as a very good platform, not only for sharing and distributing such kind of resources, but also even as a virtual platform for recruitment and for mimicking jihadist video games as well, which I will show you later in my slide. Um, so yeah, so the way Facebook acts as a very all-in-one medium put together. Um, so we generally hear in the mainstream news that ISIS is a brutal organization. It's so barbaric and it's so gruesome, and I'm sure there is certain minuscule section of people who are probably like such kind of barbaric things, what they show and what they do. But most majority will not accept that going or risking their lives to go to caliphate or going to Islamic State for fighting for jihad and for putting up their lives in front. So what is social media propaganda that is Islamic State is doing that is so fascinating that young people are going and joining their cause? Is it the same like what we see in mainstream media? No, it is not. Because they show in their magazines is this. They show this, that you can see children are playing in the caliphate and it's a happy state of affair, that everything is very hunky-dory. It's not like beheadings and stuff. And I come from New Zealand. It's a beautiful country with very scenic views, very good landscape. I'm sure Sweden is as well. After this conference, I hope to do some sightseeing. But guess what? So is the Islamic State. Islamic State gives you a picturesque view of their beautiful landscape in their caliphate, which they have claimed. So so it's a very different portrayal of ISIS through their magazines. Then there is a picture of a soldier who is celebrating after the fight with Iraqi forces. So they're happy, and there is camaraderie and there's martyrdom, that they are actually successful and they're happy within the caliphate. And then there are pictures of women who are also not afraid to do their part of jihad. Which is, again, so this is a very different portrayal of what Islamic State projects through social media platforms, or even from their magazines that they publish, the e-magazines they come up with. So it's very different from what we actually see in mainstream media. Their portrayal is completely different compared to what we see. Now, with Islamic State, it's one of the terror organizations which is actually not afraid to, or which is not hiding. Another special way social media platforms they use is they are in fact branding themselves. Islamic State is branding itself. It's not like Al Qaeda that it's hiding. It's actually out there, and it's pretty much claiming what they are. So they are selling T-shirts. They have T-shirts with their logo and saying we are all ISIS, Islamic State. And this is not only online merchandising that they are doing from their social media platforms. They are selling mugs and even toys for kids. I have come across pictures where there are kids who are wearing bandanas with the claim of Islamic State. So they're actually promoting their ideology and their symbolism. Then they actually mimic popular video game styles to train and encourage wannabe jihadists, especially. So then we have, I'm sure, I don't know if you guys have like Call of Duty, which is a very popular game, which Islamic State has a mimicking game as the Call of Duty, which says this is our Call of Duty, and we respond to in Jannah, which is mimicking these video games. And they have Hollywood-style based movies, which they again mimic as 800 and Prepare for Glory, where you can see the Islamic State's army is there, and then they mention that as Crusaders' army, and where they are fighting till their death. Okay. Um, so these are various ways how social media platform is actually being used. They, as I mentioned before, they are very tech-savvy journalists. They're one of the prime points about one of the prime points of recruiting foreign fighters is because they are very valued treasure for them. Not only they bring their ideology, but they also bring their cultural and their backgroundal aspect and their tech. The young generation is very addictive to social media platforms. So they bring a lot of things with themselves. So they walk and talk with the social media generation. They know the lingos. They know the slang which with the generation use. We use LOL, LMAO. We use YOLO, which is you live only once. Well, they have changed that as well. And they have YODO, where you say you only die once. Why not make it martyrdom? So they're actually projecting camaraderie are projecting as a martyr. So if you are, even if you are, if you have no sense of purpose in life, why don't you just come to Caliphate and join and make a hero of yourself in your life? So they know. My point is, they actually know the terrorist organizations are very. It's not a propaganda that is going out of the blue, or they have no decisive plan. They have a very well decisive plan, and they exactly know what they are doing. And mind you, if you have seen all my slides, and another point of keeping all the images is because the fact that an image speaks 1,000 words, whereas if you put that in one paragraph or something. So young generations are more impressed by graphics and the ideology and the graphical things. So their magazines are very graphic in nature, in which they try to justify religious justification with this kind of imagery. So I'm talking about slangs, I'm talking about lingos. What is one thing remaining? Well, that's the memes. Yeah, that's very surprising. We share a lot of memes, yeah, and we often get trolled by memes, trolled as well. But ISIS creates its own memes, and they have their own memes. For instance, they have an example of here, where Iraqi soldier is running from, and it says, "Run, Rafidi, run! ISIS is coming." Rafidi in Islamic term means who is a refusal of the believer, or who is a disbeliever, or who doesn't believe. So then there is one of these pictures. And then there is another meme mocking the US forces, saying at first I was like this, and then I was all. So there are memes which even they are coming up with, in which they are talking about. So basically, these are all different formats I'm showing you in my presentation slides. That this is the way social media is being used as a tactical tool. But if you see all the bottom line of this is that they are projecting that we are actually more. Whatever we do, we are successful, and if you join us, you are actually on our part compared to the other part. Now, these are all examples which I've gathered from 1 year to 1.5 years of case study. But let me show you one of the recent posters that the Islamic State actually came. So recently, the London terror attacks came, and we did a pretty good research. My fellow colleague, Jacob, also helped me a lot. He was one of the guys who actually helped me with Twitter data and stuff. And after a lot of struggle, we actually found out this poster that was recently circulating in Twitter, where it says, "Do your jihad even when you are in Europe." It's a propaganda poster by Islamic State. We couldn't find the original tweet because nowadays gathering data from social media platforms is becoming very, very difficult because now these companies, Facebook and Twitter, are very much concerned and very much aware that what kind of content is being posted. So we couldn't find the original tweet because I'm pretty sure by the time we came to get this poster, by that original tweet had already been taken down. So propaganda poster, and then there was a threat of another 9/11 in London as well. Um, and then there was religious justification, as the poster says, do your jihad even. And the fourth point was projecting the person who did this, did carry out this attack as a martyr, that he was a affiliate of Islamic State and he actually went out to do this. Now, my one of my very basic tenets of arguments which I'm trying to project from my research is that they are very tech-savvy journalists and tech-savvy terrorists, not journalists. Oh God, I'm just nervous. Please don't. Yeah, so they're very tech-savvy terrorists, and intelligence agencies and the government, we are still under a pretty regular framework of doing things. But in order to deal this kind of propaganda that is emerging from, especially cyberterrorism, that is emerging from these kind of social media platforms, it is very necessary that we have a very comprehensive policy in which there are stakeholders from every aspect, from policymakers to communication experts to social media experts, not only experts, but also social media professionals, where we can come up with a cyberterrorism policy which is comprehensive enough, yet flexible to deal with this kind of content. Because social media has opened gates to so many things, and it is very difficult to regulate or put some kind of framework regulatory structure around these platforms. But we need to find out a solution, and that is where I'm trying to do my best. Thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you, guys.